Amidst the freezing waters and legendary fog of the San Francisco Bay, there lies an island whose name alone is enough to send a shiver down the spine. It's no ordinary island. It's known as the Rock. The world knows it as Alcatraz. For the 29 years it was in operation, this was the final stop for America's most notorious and hardened criminals. A fortress built with a single purpose: to hold those whom society had given up on. It was believed that no one could escape from Alcatraz. But then, on a June night in 1962, 3 inmates vanished into thin air, leaving only dummy heads made of papier-mâché in their beds. Did they achieve the impossible, or did they simply perish in the icy waters of the San Francisco Bay? That question has haunted America for over 60 years. Today, we will revisit one of history's most mysterious cases, to explore not only the escape of the century, but the entire thorny legacy this prison left behind. Even before it became a federal prison, Alcatraz had been a military fortress since the mid-19th century. Its location was perfect, completely isolated, over a mile from shore, and surrounded by swift currents and water so cold it could kill a person in minutes. This was the ideal site for a maximum security prison. And so, in 1934, as America reeled from the Great Depression and a wave of organized crime, the Department of Justice transformed Alcatraz into a federal penitentiary. But this was no ordinary prison. It was reserved for incorrigible inmates, those who caused trouble at other prisons. Sending a criminal to Alcatraz was like sending a message: this is the end of the line. How harsh was life within these walls? Inmates were guaranteed only 4 basic things: food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. Everything else, from work assignments and writing to family, to the privilege of reading a book from the library, had to be earned through good behavior. In the early years, a strict rule of silence was even enforced, forcing inmates to live in near total quiet, a horrifying form of psychological torture. Violators were thrown into the Hole, dark and cold solitary confinement cells. This place once held the most infamous names in American crime. George Machine Gun Kelly, a ruthless bank robber. Robert Stroud, the legendary Birdman of Alcatraz. Ironically, all of his avian research was conducted at Leavenworth Prison. When he was transferred here, he wasn't allowed to keep a single bird. And of course, one cannot forget public enemy number 1, Al Capone. After easily bribing and manipulating guards at the Atlanta Penitentiary, Al Capone was transferred to Alcatraz to get a real taste of discipline. Here, the famous mob boss was just prisoner number 85. All his power vanished. No more expensive suits, no more lavish meals. Al Capone had to work like any other inmate, even playing the banjo in the prison band to pass the time. Alcatraz proved it could break the spirit of even the most formidable criminals. Over 29 years, there were 14 escape attempts involving 36 prisoners. Most were recaptured, shot dead, or presumed drowned. But one attempt became legendary, a plan so daring and ingenious it was hard to believe. This is the story of Frank Morris and the brothers John and Clarence Anglin. Frank Morris, the mastermind, had an IQ of 133, a genius-level criminal. The Anglin brothers were seasoned bank robbers with a history of escapes. Along with a 4th man, Alan West. This quartet devised an escape plan that took months to execute. Their plan was meticulous. They discovered that the concrete around the ventilation grills in their cells had been eroded by salt air and had become brittle. With tools so crude they were almost unbelievable. Spoons stolen from the dining hall, razor blades, and a drill made from a vacuum cleaner motor, they took turns chipping away at the walls, little by little each night. The noise was perfectly masked by Morris playing his accordion during music hour. To deceive the guards on their nightly patrols, they created astonishingly sophisticated fake human heads. They were made from a mixture of toilet paper, soap, and cement, painted with flesh-colored tones, and even adorned with real hair they collected from the prison barbershop. Placing these heads on pillows and pulling up the blankets created a perfect illusion. But escaping the cells was only the first step. The greatest challenge remained: the San Francisco Bay. For months, they secretly collected over 50 raincoats, painstakingly gluing them together with a special adhesive to create an inflatable raft and life vests. The raft would be inflated using an instrument similar to a concertina accordion. On the night of the 11th of June, 1962, the plan was set in motion. The three men squeezed through the holes in their walls, entered the utility corridor, climbed to the roof, slid down a drainpipe, scaled 2 barbed wire fences, and finally, launched their homemade raft into the dark water. The fourth conspirator, Alan West, was not so lucky. His vent cover was stuck, and he was left behind. The next morning, when guards discovered the truth, the largest manhunt in Alcatraz's history was launched. A massive search took place on land and sea. But Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers had vanished without a trace. So, what was the true fate of the 3 escapees? This is where one of the 20th century's greatest mysteries begins. After a 17-year investigation, the FBI officially closed the case in 1979, concluding that all 3 had likely drowned. They argued that with such swift and cold currents, no homemade raft could have survived. A few pieces of the raft and a wallet found near Angel Island seem to support this theory. However, many people refused to believe this conclusion. A major question arose: why were no bodies ever found? In previous drowning incidents, victims' bodies usually washed ashore relatively quickly. The Anglin brothers' family claimed they had received anonymous Christmas cards, and even a controversial photograph allegedly taken of the 2 brothers in Brazil in 1975. Later experiments also showed that survival was possible. The show Mythbusters successfully recreated the journey on a similar raft and landed safely. Dutch scientists using computer models also concluded that if the men had left at the right time, between 11 p.m. and midnight, the tide could have helped them reach the mainland. And then, the biggest mystery of all emerged. In 2013, the San Francisco Police Department received a shocking letter. The author claimed to be John Anglin. The letter read, in part, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962. Yes, we all made it that night." The writer claimed that Frank Morris died in 2008 and his brother Clarence in 2011. He, now 83 and suffering from cancer, offered to turn himself in if he was promised no more than a year in prison and access to medical care. The FBI analyzed the DNA and handwriting on the letter, but the results were inconclusive. Did they drown, or did they succeed and live out their lives in freedom somewhere? Was the letter real, or just a modern hoax? What theory do you think is more plausible? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The shocking 1962 escape was a fatal blow to Alcatraz's inescapable reputation. Just 1 year later, in March 1963, the prison was officially closed. The official reasons given were that it was too expensive to operate 3 times more costly than other prisons, and that the buildings were severely corroded by salt water. But the story of Alcatraz didn't end there. The deserted island soon became the stage for another important chapter in American history. In November 1969, a group of over 80 Native American activists occupied the island. They claimed sovereignty based on an old treaty that allowed Native people to reclaim unused federal lands. This 19-month occupation aimed to protest government policies and draw global attention to the plight of Native Americans. Although they were eventually forced to leave, the occupation of Alcatraz created a powerful wave of awareness, igniting struggles for civil rights and land rights across the United States. It transformed Alcatraz from a symbol of punishment into a symbol of resistance and the desire for self-determination. And, of course, its impact on popular culture cannot be overlooked. The stories of its harsh life and the legendary escape have become an endless source of inspiration for Hollywood. The classic 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz, starring Clint Eastwood, brought the story of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers to a global audience, cementing the image of the Rock in the minds of millions. Today, Alcatraz is no longer a fearsome prison. It has become a national park, a historical landmark, and one of San Francisco's most popular tourist attractions, welcoming about 1.5 million visitors each year. Visitors come here not just to see the cold cell blocks, but to feel the overlapping layers of history. Behind the rusted bars, Alcatraz is not just a story of crime and punishment. It is a testament to the limits of confinement, an epic about the thirst for freedom, a milestone in the fight for civil rights, and a cultural icon that has transcended the shores of the San Francisco Bay. A lonely rock in the middle of the ocean, yet it holds stories that will be told forever. If you were also captivated by these mysterious pages of history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next journeys of discovery. Goodbye, and see you again.